Hi, I'm Tina of Treasured Expressions. Today we're going to be making a diamond pattern brick stitch earring. The free pattern can be found on handmadejewelryclub.com. Let's get started. For this project we're going to need 2 tubes of check glass seed beads, one in crystal and one in cobalt. They're size 10-0, and today I'm going to be using Nymo thread, the black, because it shows up better on camera, but another good choice will be the Beadalon wildfire thread. Okay, I already have a piece of thread cut to 50 inches. So let's get started by getting our beads out. This is what we will be making today. It's a pretty diamond shape earring. To start, we will be making 3 continuous diamonds, a large one and 2 smaller ones that will be connected in the middle. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is going to put a stop bead on the end of the thread, and we're going to leave a 6 to an 8-inch tail, and we're going to go under the bead and back up through. Okay, and that's good. In the pattern, we have increases starting at the bottom. There's 1 here, and then it will gradually go up 2, 3, 4, 5 until you get to the middle row, which is 10 wide. We don't do the first one. We put that on at the end, and the first row we're going to do is a row of 2. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is put on 2 seed beads in blue. Let those drop all the way down to the stop bead. Okay. Then you kind of let it arch slightly, and then you go up through the bead on the left. Okay. Once you get that one on there, you'll just push your stop bead up to meet that. We have the thread coming out of the left bead. Now we need to flip our work over and have the thread coming out of the right bead. Then I'm going to add, at the beginning of every row, you add 2 beads. There's your 2 blue beads. Then there's the thread bridge that spans between this right bead and this left bead. What you're going to do is you're going to take your needle and you're going to go under that thread bridge. Then you just let the beads come into place. And then what you do is you take your needle, you just push that one down. Then you go back up through that bead on the left. And then just give it a little tug. Now what you want to do is increase by 1, because every row is going to increase by 1. To do that, you turn your work sideways. Then between the top bead and the bottom bead is a little thread bridge. So you're going to pick up just 1 seed bead now. Then you're going to go under that thread bridge. And then bring your thread to the front. And then just get that into place. And then you go through the bottom of that bead that we just put on. Okay. And then just kind of give it a quick tug and push your stop bead up to there. So now what we have is our stop bead. So we have a row of 2 and a row of 3. Once you have that row of 3, we're going to flip our work around, and we're going to start the next row. And at the beginning of every row, we're going to have 2 seed beads. There's the 2. Then we're going to go under that first thread bridge. I'm going to get those seed beads into place. I'm going to go up through that bead on the left. And pull slightly. We're going to pick up one seed bead at a time now. Then we're going to go under the next thread bridge, spanning the next two beads, right in between there. Just pull that. Then we're going to go back up through that last bead that we added. Then we're going to just give it a little tug to lock that bead down. Okay, now we have 3 and we need 4. We need 1 more to make that increase, so we turn our row again to the side. We add just 1 seed bead in the blue. Then we're going to go under the thread between the top row and that bottom row. Make sure the thread is around front. And make sure the bead is in position. Then you're going to go up through the bottom. Give that a little tug. Now we have 4 in that row. I'm just going to continue up and increase 1 stitch at a time until we get to our middle point, which would be right across the center here, where it's the widest point, which is 10 wide. Okay? Okay. So that last row should have a total of 10 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. First, we're going to flip that around. Now we are going to start decreasing to get this to go up this way. Right now, here's where we're at. Okay. To do the decrease, what you'll need to do is take your needle and go down to the bead to the left. So we'll go down through that bead, and no beads have been added. We are just positioning our thread where it needs to be in order to decrease. Now what you do is you go 1 bead over to the right, and you go down through the front, only that 1 bead, and then you'll pull that. Still, we did not add any beads. Okay, then we will go 1 bead to the left, and then you can kind of angle your needle, and then you can go back up through to your first row there, and then you now are positioned to do your decrease. Basically what we did is we just got our thread, instead of coming out of the first hole of that first bead, we now have it in the second hole. So that's how we decrease. Now, okay. In our first decrease row, we still add 2 beads on the needle. These ones are clear in my pattern. And we'll go under the next thread bridge of where our thread is coming out. It's pretty much the same thing. As we start a new row, that's when we're going to do decreases. When we come to the end of this row, we are not going to increase like we did before. Instead of ending a row with an increase, we are now, when we flip our work over, going to decrease at the beginning of each row. Okay. Okay, we locked down our first set of beads in our decrease row. See, it's 1 less over here. So we just continue on like we did in every other row. Okay. All right, that is the end of our row. Okay, now we're going to flip it around. Okay. Okay, I'm on a decrease. So now that means what I'll do is I will go down the bead just to the left of it with no beads added. Then I go down the one bead just to the right of it. Just that one bead. Okay, and then take your needle. Okay. After you come up that bead, you're going to go one bead over in the top row, and you're going to go up that bead, which is your second bead in the row above it. So now, instead of being in the first bead, your thread is coming out of your second bead. That's what causes your decrease. So now that we're on a decrease, we can start adding our beads. I'm going to now add 2 beads at the beginning of this row, which is 2 clears in my row. In this row I'll have 3 clears before I'll add any of my blues. Go into the next thread bridge, pull it towards me, and the tail got caught. There we go. Separate the 2 beads and go back up through that last bead that I added. Okay, and then every time it's now going to be adding 1 bead. I am on number 3 on my clear. This is the last one in this row. Go under the next thread bridge from the back towards me, and then back up through the last bead. Now you need to remember, in the beginning is when we were doing our increases, we're on a decrease, so at the end of this row we will not be adding a bead. So once you get to the end, you just flip it over, and we're still on decrease. Okay, so now by looking at the pattern, I will have 2 of my clears. To do the decrease, we do not add any beads. We go down through that second bead to the left here, go down that, and then we go over 1 bead to the right. And you might need to just angle your needle just a little bit to get it down, and only go in that 1 bead. Once you go down through that 1 bead, you're now going to go to the bead just to the left of it. Go from bottom to the top. And then you go through the one just slightly to the right of it, which is the number 2 bead in the row above. Okay. Now, instead of the thread coming out of the first bead, it's now coming out of the second bead. And that is our decrease. Okay, in my pattern, my first bead I'm going to add are my clears. Put 2 clears, go under my first thread bridge after that decrease, and back up through the bead on the left here. A total of 3 blues, then we'll have 2 clears that we'll end that row with. Pick up my last bead for this row. In my pattern, I have 2 clears on the row below it, so that means I'm going to have 1 clear in this row and then a blue. So I'm going to pick up 1 clear and 1 blue, because every time we start a row, we need to always add 2. Okay, and then we go under that first thread bridge. And then we go back up through the blue bead, which is the last bead we added. And lock it down. Okay, in our pattern, the next thing is a blue. The next 2 after this will also be blue. The next bead is the last one in this row. It's a clear. Again, 1 on the needle. Go through the next thread bridge. And back up through that last bead. Flip our work around. So now it's coming out of the first hole, and we're still on a decrease until we get to the top of this triangle. As you can see, it's starting to get a nice angle on it. Here's where we started doing our decreases as we gradually went up. So I'm going to do what we've always been doing on our decreases. Now that is our decrease. So there's the first one. Now the thread's coming out of the second one. Now we're going to add 2 beads because it's the start of our row. There's 2. Go under our first thread bridge. Make sure they're laying flat. Go back up through that last one I added. This whole row will be blue, and we'll just continue till we get to the end of this row. Go under that last thread bridge. And back up through that last bead. Okay, we're going to flip our work around. It's coming out of the first hole, and we need to get it out the second hole for the decrease. So now it's coming out of the second bead. 1, 2. And we're going to add another blue in this pattern. And okay, I will add 2 beads to start this row. Go under the next thread bridge. Move that one over. And go up through that last bead that I added. And lock it down. Last thread bridge in this row. And up through that last bead. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to turn our work around. We're on a decrease, same as always. Go down to the one on the left. No beads. Down to the one on the right. Just to the right of it. And then one to the left in that same row, going from the bottom up. And then up through the second bead in the row above it. So now we're in the second position, so that's our decrease. Now we have 4 below it, so we'll have a total of 3 blues in this row. The first stitch always has 2. 1, 2 blues. Next thread bridge. Okay. Move that around and back up through that bead. That last one there. And then I just need to add one more blue. Just one. Under that last thread bridge. And back up through that last bead. Okay, I'm going to flip it around again, and we're still on decrease. Same thing as always. Go down the second bead, and now okay, on this last row, we will just have one at the top of this blue section, and there is no more increasing or decreasing. So I will just pick up one blue bead and let it slide all the way to the bottom. Now, once that slides down, do the same thing, but we're not increasing or decreasing, so we're going to that last thread bridge. Then it will turn that bead sideways. So now what I need to do is to go back over to the right side of that bead, to get my bead. My thread will be coming out of the left side of the bead now. Now I'm going to add a silver bead, and this is going to be our next joining stitch right there. Okay, and to do that, we're just going to add the one clear bead, and then we're going to position our needle to the right of that blue bead and go to the left. So basically what's going to happen is the thread is going to form a circle, because when you first started that, it was coming out of the left side of the bead. Because we went over and came out the other side of the bead, you now have a circle. So when you pull that, the bead up above it is going to lay directly above it. Now, to strengthen this joining section, I'm going to now take the string that's coming out to the left, position my needle to the clear bead, and then I go through it. Okay. Then I'm going to do a couple more to strengthen this section. So now it's coming out the right, so now I'm going to go to the bottom through the right side of that blue bead, again making a little circle, and then one more time through the clear bead from the left side to the right side. And that should give you a nice strong section where we're going to join the two. Okay, now in the pattern we have the one bead really tight, wrap that around a finger and hold it with that one. So I'm going to add two clears. Okay, let those slide down, and then I kind of want to position my thread to go in a circle. Because the bead below it is lying differently, I want to kind of keep it so that I'm going in from the left side of that clear bead below it. That's just to connect the row above it. Okay. Okay. And those will pretty much just swing around and lie flat. Now, these two beads now need to be vertical. So in order to do that, I am going to go up through that first bead and give it a tug. There. And now they lay side by side. So now, just like we did in our first diamond shape, we are now going to do increases again. We start every row with 2. So I'm going to pick up 2 clears. Now these are all going to be clear because the 2 joining triangles are both clear. So I got 2 on my needle, and then I go under the thread bridge. Okay, and then I just want that one to sit a little bit better. Make that come around. Then I'll go back up through that bead I just added. And then I'm going to kind of give it a tug so that it lays nice and tight for the row below it. Now, just like we did before, the increase, we're going to turn it sideways. We're going to add 1 clear bead, just 1. Then we're going to go through the thread bridge that's just below those 2 rows. Okay. And bring the thread around front and go back up through that bead. There we go. And pull that tight. Okay, so now we did an increase. The join has 1, and then it goes to 2, then to 3. So now we're at the end of that row. We already did our increase. So we're going to flip it over, give it a slight tug, and when you hold it, you can hold slightly the diamond below it and really tightly the one you're joining, because you don't want it to be flopping around while you're working on it. Okay. So at the beginning of every row, we're going to add 2. So there's 2 clear. Go under that first thread bridge. Okay. Flip that one over and go back up through that bead on the left. Okay. Lock that down. Now we're going to add just 1 at a time till we get to the end of the row. Got 1 more thread bridge. We're going to go under that. And then we're going to go back up through that bead. Some people pull it tight down before they go up. Either way. Okay, give it a tug. And now there's 3, so I need 4 in this row. So I'm going to add 1 more clear. 1. Then this is an increase, so I turn it sideways. And I go between the thread bridge, between the row below it and the row I'm adding. Okay, then my thread is around front. And then I just go up through the bead I just added. Okay. And lock it down. Okay, on our pattern, we are at a row that is going to have 5. After that row, we're going to start decreasing. So the widest part of the next diamond is 5 wide. The diamond below it had 10 wide through the middle. We're going to have 5 wide through this next little diamond. So we did our increase. We flip it over. Get a nice grip on it. add 2 clear beads, 2, go under our first thread bridge, get that flipped over. Okay, and then we're just going to go back up through that last bead. Okay, now we're just adding one at a time, so I'm going to add 1 clear, and then I'm going to flip it up, go under that 1 thread bridge, and then I'm going to lock it down by going up through the bead I just added. Okay, add 1 more clear, go under the thread bridge, and that's the last one in this row. And then I'm going to do an increase. To do the increase, we turn it sideways. Before we do that, we are going to add 1 bead. That's a clear. Go under the thread bridge, with the thread in the front, and go back up through that last bead we added. Okay, so now we have a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clears. So we're going to flip our work around. And like I said before, 5 is the widest point on these diamonds. To do a decrease, we're going to take our needle, go down through the second bead on the top, down, and then we are going to go 1 bead to the right. Okay, and go down that one. And then we're going to go up 1 bead to the left. And then we go up our second bead in the row up above. So now your thread should be coming out of the second bead in the row up above. Now that we are coming out of that second bead, this is going to be our first decrease. So we're going to pick up 2 to start every row. I'm going to pick up 2 clears. I'm going to go under that first thread bridge. Okay, then I'm going to go up through that bead on the left. Then I'm going to add 1 more clear. Then I'm going to go under the next thread bridge and back up through that last bead I added. Okay, and I'm going to add 1 more clear. I'm going to go under the last thread bridge. So we will not do a decrease at the end of the row, only at the beginning of the row. So we go back up through that last bead. Now you should have a total of 4. The row below it had 5, and this row will have 4. When you get to the end of that row, you'll flip it over, and now you can see the first decrease. So now we need another decrease. I'm going to go down the second bead. The thread should be coming out of the second bead. Now we are ready to start that row. And we're doing all clears, so I'm going to pick up 2 because we're starting our row. 2 clears. Go under that thread bridge, the very next one. And And back up through the bead on the left to lock it down. Okay, I'm going to add one more clear and go under that thread bridge. And back up through that bead I just added. So now we have 3 in this row. We need to flip our work around when you get to the end. Okay, hold on it tight. We're still on a decrease, so we're going to go down through that second one. So now I'm in the second position in the second bead. So now I'm going to add 2 clear beads at the start of my row. Go under that thread bridge. And back up through that last bead that I added on the left there. Okay. Now, we're going to do what we did before. We're going to flip it around. Now, we are adding the joiner bead, just like we did down here, where it's just 1. It's going to lay horizontally at the joint instead of vertically like the rest line up. So we're going to pick up our 1 clear bead. I'm going to do the same thing I would normally do, which is to go under that thread bridge, but instead of going back up through the bead, we're going to make sure it lays horizontally, and we're not going to go back up through the way we normally would. So you straighten it out. Okay. I'm going to add my next clear one, and I'm going to come in from the side, and then I'm going to pull it, and this is going to snap on top of that, and you'll just want to flip that. Okay. Okay. Now that we're coming out of this side, we want to strengthen this whole section. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top of this bead on the top, from the left side to the right side, and then I'm going to go in the bead below it, from the right side to the left side. I'm just pretty much going around in circles a couple times to strengthen that join. And one more time from the left to right. Then I'm ready to start my next diamond. Okay, so to start the next row, I'm going to add 2 clears, and I'm going to come in from the left side of the bead I added, come out the right, then I'm going to flip this bead here over, so the circle, and that helps it to lay straight up and down again, so that we are now vertical. So I'm going to go back up through this bead on the right, and I'm going to strengthen this section here too. So I'm going to go down the bead on the left, and right where we joined it, there's just 1 bead. So I'm going to go from left side of that bead through the right side, and that just helps to strengthen. And then back up through and the bead on the right. So now I'm ready to start increases again. Now we are at the point where we're going to flip the work over. We will only have one bead in this last row, which is going to be a clear. And this is the one we want to lay horizontally instead of vertically. So to do that, we're not joining one this time. So to do that, we're still going to come one bead to the left on the row below it. Put the needle in front of that. Pull that through. And then we are going to go one bead to the right. We're going to come in from the bottom. Okay. And then we are going to go from right to left. We're going to go through this bead a couple of times to secure it in a circular pattern. I'm going to come around and I'm going to go down the next row bead, just the one. And then to strengthen the bead up above it, I'm going to go back up through the one bead on the right. And then through there one more time. So to end this, what we're going to do is we're going to take that thread and we're going to come down this whole side here. All your decreases, we're going to go down through. I'm going to only do 2 or 3. We'll do 2 at a time. And then we'll pull that through. And then we'll take another 2. And we're just reinforcing this outer edge. Okay. And we're going to do that all the way around. So go to the next one. And I'm going to go down through the next bead. You want to make sure that before you cut any threads that it's very secure. So you just find in between a bead anywhere. So I'm just finding a thread. There, found one. Go under that. And then come towards me. Go through. Once you go through, then we can pull that. And there will be a knot under those beads that I just grabbed. I think I'm going to do that one more time because I have enough thread. And it's okay if you see a little thread come through some of the beads because this is going to be folded over so you really won't see them from the other side. This is the back side. I'm going to go down through this bead. And it really doesn't matter which bead you decide to go down when you're tying off your thread. You're really just trying to find a couple of catch threads. And you go under it, and then you just catch it, and go through the loop, go really tight, make sure it's flat, tight, give it a tug, and now you're ready to cut it off. Make sure you cut the thread really close to the beadwork. To do that, what I do is I'll lay the scissors right along the beads, and I'll actually run the thread through the scissors. There. And then I'll just take it and I'll just push it flat. There we go. So that side is ended. Now we're going to flip it upside down because when we first started, we had a stop bead. We need to take our stop bead off, all the way off. Okay, and then, so then we're going to pick up one blue bead. And then this is the one that's going to lay horizontal. So to do that, we're going to go down the bead to the left. And then we are going to go over to the next bead to the right. We're going to go up that bead. And we're going to go in a circle to go through that last bead. And we're going to go around one more time. Okay, now we can end this thread. So we're gonna, you can find an anchor on the side. After you go through that thread bridge, you're gonna go through that last bead. And then I'm gonna come down into my work and I'm gonna find a catch thread. And what I mean by catch thread is between the beads. If you kind of open it up a little bit, you're going to see where the thread is running through, and you're just going to catch that. And then you don't pull the loop all the way closed, and you go back up through the loop, and then you're going to pull tight, and that's going to anchor in between the beads to hide the knot. Okay, take your scissors and put it right up against the edge of the beads and actually run the thread through the scissors until it falls off. So this part is completed. The next step is to add the flat back post and hide it in between these two diamond patterns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the other one that I have to make sure it lines up in the same place, and I have that one coming out of, you count that top one as a row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th row, and 1, 2, 3 beads in. Okay, so I'm going to put the flat back post and I'm going to push it through the space there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this over until they meet up. Now we need to zip stitch along the edges here so that the two diamonds line up and stay secure to hide the post that's inside between those two. Okay, we're going to cut a new length of thread, about 10 inches or so, and that's what we're going to use to join our two together by doing a zip stitch. And we're going to make sure when you fold them in half that the two tips line up and all of the edges line up. We're going to continue up through these beads. What I usually do is pinch it really tight. You don't want them really moving on you. Now, I chose black thread. You can use white so it's not as noticeable. You will notice it on the side edge with the zip stitch. It gets a lot of string, especially like this corner here. You'll see it's really dark. But from the front, you really can't notice it, and you could tuck it in. And because both of those have a lot of thread in them, I'm going to actually just go through the thread bridge instead. And then I'm going to go down the bead on the left. And all the way down. Okay, now we've gone around once. I like to go around at least twice so that it's really strong along that edge. And again, I'm not going to go through those top beads there because they're pretty full. So I'm just going to go through the thread bridge Then I'm going to go to the bead just to the left of it on the top here, and that will complete that zip stitch. So now what I need to do is get the rest of them, which are these edges right here going all the way to the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to continue on down the rest of those clear beads. Okay, and then I'm going to find the last bead, which is the clear bead, and I'm going to go down that one. It's going to kind of get to the opposite side because I want it to lay really flat. Then I'm going to come in through the back of that last bead on the diamond of the one behind it. Okay, you can move that out of the way if you need to. So now you got the two sides, and I want to go up this whole side. Okay, and then I'm gonna go down this side, all of them, again forming the little U in between there. And then I'm gonna go that last one bead there, I'm gonna go in from the right to the left, and then I'm going to come in from the back up through the diamond on the back, that last bead. So if you were holding it this way, you'd actually be coming in from the left. If you're holding it sideways like this, you'd be coming in from the bottom. Then you'll go up through there, and then you're going to go through all of the beads on the back side of that diamond, and that has been strengthened twice. So now I'm going to go back down just the beads in the front, diamond. Then I'm going to go through that one last little bead, the clear one, in that row from right to left. Now I'm going to turn my work sideways, and now I'm going to zip along this edge here. And to do that, I'm going to go up. You can position it any way you feel comfortable so that it's nice and tight and it doesn't want to move for you. And then I'm going to go through the bottom bead there, and I'm just going to continue all the way up this whole edge until I get to that center point, the widest point of that diamond. And then I'm going to go over one bead and down the other bead to the left of it, and down that entire side right here in the back. You can go through as many beads as you want to at a time. Okay, that side is now zipped up. So we are on our last zip, and we're going to go up this back side one more time, and we've already been around there twice. So now the last section that we have to do the zip stitch on is this section right here. So I'm going to move my tail out of the way, and I'm going to go up through this bead that is next in line and go through all of those beads. Again, I'm going to skip that top bead there because we've been through that several times. So we're going to go just to the bead to the left of that one in the other diamond. And they're starting to get a little tight, so you'll just need to wiggle your needle until it gets through. And sometimes you might need to just slowly tug. Okay, so now we've gone around once and we're on our last round to go through to strengthen this whole side. Go up and down. Okay, we've gone around twice. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do catch threads again. So we turn it to the side and we're going to catch a couple threads on the side and we're going to go under it and then go through the loop, and then we're just going to anchor that knot. I'm going to do that, and then we'll do it again. And then I like to hide the knot in the next bead. And you can do it as many knots as you want. I like to have a couple in there. So I'm going to go through one more bead. Catch one more thread. Don't pull it all the way through. Catch the loop, go through, and make sure that the knot goes between the two beads. And just give it a little tug. And then you'll want to take the knot to hide it and go down through one more bead. Alrighty. And that is your last bead that you go through. And now we can cut the thread. Again, put it right up against the bead and slide the thread through the scissors. Don't close the scissors, just slide the thread. There's one. And this top one we had already anchored and had knots, so we just need to cut that thread. And we now have a completed pair of Brickstitch earrings. Hope you enjoyed making these earrings. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my channel and share. Thank you very much.